#1 selling chocolate bar in the UK. Who'd have thought that? And I became quite obsessed with that, because the first time we looked, I think we were 15, which is still bloody good, but who wants to be 15?
Al Barratt, the founder of Grenade, who talks about going from selling gym gear to building a 200 million brand with hustle, with clarity, and with conviction.
That decision to position a protein bar as a chocolate bar, create a chocolate bar that then became like the #1 best-selling chocolate bar in the UK. Who came up with that idea?
Yeah, that'd be me, and everyone thought I was mad. I didn't come close to getting fired on that occasion, but I was prepared to resign over it.
Welcome to this special bite-sized episode of Screw It, Just Do It from our back catalogue of over 550 past episodes. If you like what you hear, don't forget to follow the show and grab your free 2-day pass to the Festival of Entrepreneurs this October. Just head to festivalofentrepreneurs.co.uk to claim yours, and don't forget to dive into the back catalogue. Want to surround yourself with 5,000 to 10,000 entrepreneurs who've already decided to screw it and just do it? The Festival of Entrepreneurs is happening October the 8th and 9th at the NEC Birmingham, and I'm giving away free 2-day pass to my listeners. 200 plus speakers, 90 plus sessions, billion-pound entrepreneurs sharing their real stories, not theory, but the actual strategies they use to scale. Head to festivalofentrepreneurs.co.uk right now and claim your free pass, because the best networking happens when you're in the room with people who've already decided to screw it and just did it.
You know, that day when that happened in March for you, talking about, you know, you might not feel that, you know, you've accomplished that much, or people might not want to hear your story. To be sat there getting emails from Richard Branson congratulating you, that must have been one of those moments, surely.
Yeah, so funnily
I know
enough,
you know Richard anyway, but
well, so funnily enough, again, I was chatting to someone about this yesterday. So yeah, that's one of the things that sometimes is, you know, probably a bit of a pinch yourself moment, because I had an email again a few weeks ago, just off Richard, and it was like, and I sort of read it, and it was like, you know, dear so and so forth, and it was a woman's name, and I was a bit like, what's he, you know, is he finally lost the plot? And what he'd done was someone had emailed him asking for an introduction to me, and they were sort of fairly well known female athlete, and they wanted some advice on sort of a supplement brand and whatever, and messaged Richard and said, I know you know Al, can you do an intro? And Richard then blind copied me in and said, look, Al's in copy, and you know, if he wants to sort of talk to you, then he didn't want to give my details out. And it was like on a Friday night, and I just thought, people are emailing Richard Branson, who is one of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time.
Yeah,
you know, he'd be in the
not
top
just in
5,
the world, but of all time.
Yeah, of all time in the world still, and has been for 50 years. And I'm like, people are emailing him for an introduction to me. It's normally the other way around. People are like, you go, can you introduce me to Rich? And I'm like, no. And I've had, like, again, some pretty well-known, incredible entrepreneurs, billionaire entrepreneurs message me actually and say, can you introduce me to Richard? I'm like, oh, I'd really rather not. Yeah, so that's a bit weird, because again, I still sort of think, God, why would they care what I've got to say? I don't know. Yeah, that's probably quite unusual. But like I said, I'm still the unqualified gym instructor from Birmingham. So,
but then your podcast, you know, Pull the Pin. You're obviously interested in other people's stories and what they've accomplished, and getting them on your show. And you know, when you started that, was you know, for me, when I started my podcast, it was like, I actually want to ask that person a question. So normally I'd never get access to that person. So let's just get them on the podcast. And, you know, you build a platform like you have, you have an audience, you have a community, and it's there to be used and to share that knowledge with other people. So
you're right. I really enjoyed doing.
I can see you enjoy it.
Yeah, I really enjoy doing Pull the Pin. And generally, I always say it's business, brand, and banter. And like everything we do, I don't take it that seriously. And to be fair, we haven't filmed one since July. So the last guy we had on was Staz from Through Dark. So again, you know, that was like ticks the military angle for me and the entrepreneurial angle and stuff. And he's obviously into his training and stuff. So did that one back in July. And then because we're filming in my house, I've had loads of building work going on. So haven't been able to have the noise, you know, we haven't been able to film because I've got lots of noise and disruption going on, and just like there's no parking for anyone. So that's pretty much finished now, but that's the only reason we haven't done any for a few months. But we have got, again, quite a few well-known people lined up to do it. And you're right, I love kind of just finding out how people have gone just from sort of nothing to something. I just think it's always interesting. And I suppose, with my own case, we never got lucky. Trust me, we never got lucky. Some brands do just kind of have a bit of a moment in time and get lucky. I'm a massive believer in timing. We've had timing on our side because people over the last 10 years have been more interested in health and fitness. That's helped us. Yeah. If we were doing this in the 70s, it would have obviously been a different time. So we've had timing on our side, but every decision that we've made has been, long thought out, hard fought decision. For the most part, been the right one. We decided to not transition away from sports nutrition, but become more of a food brand and take what we'd learned in specialist sports nutrition and kind of adapt it, more for a mass market mainstream audience. A bit like a car manufacturer would do in terms of what they learn on the track. They adapt and modify it for the road. The same, really, we did the same. So all that was a conscious decision. We didn't just get there by accident. And I would say we didn't invent protein bars, but we definitely invented good ones. And again, we put them in the locations that actually people wanted them. And it was bloody hard. Imagine trying to get a protein bar in a petrol station. You're dislodging a chocolate bar, or you're fighting it out with the top consumer brands in the world. The Unilevers and Kellogg's and Cadbury, Ferrero and stuff. That shelf space is very, very, very competitive. So you can imagine if you're going in, something's coming out. And to get someone to give you a chance was incredibly hard. So yeah, we didn't do it by accident. We really had to fight for that. And I do know how we did that. And I've been CEO for 11 years. I'm still CEO, God knows how. But I suppose then, because I'm always in the detail of decisions that we make and things that we do, and there's always a reason behind it. When I do interviews and people say, well, how did you do that? And I know the answer was, to be fair, a lot of people probably wouldn't know the answer. They just kind of, they get to where they got to and don't quite know how they've done it. But I think with Grenade, we'd know exactly how we've done it because it's been bloody hard work.
If you're enjoying this conversation and thinking, I need to be around more people like this, then I've got the perfect solution for you. The Festival of Entrepreneurs is where 5,000 to 10,000 ambitious entrepreneurs come together to learn from the people who've actually done it. It's on October the 8th and 9th at the NEC in Birmingham, and I'm giving my listeners free 2-day passes. Real entrepreneurs, real stories, real strategies. Exactly like what you're hearing right now, but live and in person. Go to festivalofentrepreneurs.co.uk and get your free 2-day pass before they're gone.
Clearly, that decision to position a protein bar as a chocolate bar, create a chocolate bar that then became like the number one best-selling chocolate bar in the UK. Who made that? Who came up with that idea? Whose decision was that ultimately?
Yeah, that'd be me, and everyone thought I was mad. So what?
I bet they did though. I bet they did.
Yeah,
think you were mad.
I didn't come close to getting fired on that occasion, but I was prepared to resign over it.
Were you?
To be honest, yeah, because I didn't sort of get a board approval and did it anyway. Because I just believed in it so much, and it was only because, and again, I know it's one of those situations where you can just go back and go, "Told you so."
Yeah.
But I just believed in it that much. And Jules was the same, she'd always back me to the.
Literally just about to say to you, what did Jules say about that idea?
Yeah, we'd always backed each other on our ideas because, to be fair, we've brand wise, I don't think we ever really disagreed on anything because it just always felt the right. We've always tried to do the right thing, and the right thing, I think, you'd always agree with. And I think it was back in sort of 2013 time, and we could see the sports nutrition stuff was important, and we were learning a lot. But everywhere that we could be number one, we were number one, and it was great. It was it was more than a nice lifestyle business. It was doing well, but it wasn't doing well enough. And one of the two biggest barriers that we had, actually probably three biggest barriers probably were, most people couldn't afford our stuff because a lot of it was 50, 60 quid, and they knew it was good, but just couldn't afford it or didn't have a need for it because it was quite specialised. All the stores that we could be in, we were already in. So we were already in, every Holland and Barratt, every Tesco. We were number one on Amazon. I was thinking, actually, you don't walk into your local chemists or petrol station and buy a £50 weight loss product or a tub of protein. They're just not there. That, you know, frankly, they're never going to be there. And again, we were looking at this sort of rise in on-the-go health and nutrition and stuff like that. And I was kind of, as a consumer, I was sick of going around petrol stations, and because I'm quite disorganized with my food, and like, you know, wanting something pretty healthy and just seeing shitty sandwiches, you know, energy drinks, like sugary energy drinks. You know, the best thing you could find was like crap sushi or something, and just you know, just loads of like really salty nuts and pasties and just cakes and stuff like that. I don't know what this British obsession is in fucking cakes. You know, you go and there's cakes everywhere. And it was like, that's all you could really find. And I just thought, if there was something there that was kind of tasted really good, and was just, you know, high protein, low carb, I'd buy it. And it was just that simple. I was looking at the protein bar market, and it hadn't really evolved in sort of 30 years. And I thought, actually, we could make a better one. And we did, and it took 2 years. And between 2013 and 2015, I sort of did it in secret, really. So the key team at Grenade knew, but our investors at the time, again, were fantastic. They kind of backed a sports nutrition business. And there's me, you know, when they invested in 2013, going, oh, we're going to go and be the #1 sports brand in the world. And then, you know, a year later, going, we're not going to do that, because we're going to do this. And it was that classic entrepreneurial thing, I think, of just like, you know, chasing rabbits. And I think they just thought, oh, God, here we go. And, you know, which I don't blame them. And I remember then, you know, giving them some one of these protein bars. And again, they weren't the typical consumer. And they were like, and I was like, you know, this is like, this tastes like a Mars bar. And they were like, yeah, it does. But, you know, we wanted the sports nutrition thing. So I just, like I said, did it in secret, ordered 50,000 bars, quite prepared to pay for them myself if it didn't go well. And we sold them in 2 hours.
2 hours.
For the next 6 weeks, we were out of stock. And then pretty much for the next 3 years, we were out of stock. And then we just doubled down. And again, that's what got us our first petrol station. And then, you know, we got these bars in this petrol station, and they just flew. And it was like, so all of a sudden then, this was the deliberate move. We had white space ahead of us. A lot of brands don't have white space ahead of them, and they don't realise it. And ours was like, well, we're in all these stores. We now need more stores. You know, if we're going to be in, I mean, at their peak, and they're all gone now, there were 60 GNC stores in the UK, sports nutrition stores. I now don't think there's one. There might be one at most.
Is there not?
I think it's probably zero. I don't think there's a single GNC store in the UK. And even like Tesco Nutricenters, there were 25. Then it was going to go to 300, and I think now it's 0. And it's only because this stuff's gone so mainstream, it doesn't need a specialist shop anymore, because you can walk into a normal sort of, you know, grocery store and buy a lot of this stuff. And because it's become so big online. So, yeah, but there were 10,000 petrol stations. So we thought, okay, if we can get one petrol station, we can get 10,000 petrol stations. And again, it's how we met the likes of Moshin, that owns Euro Garages, and stuff, as well, as another incredible entrepreneur. And again, just sort of built these relationships, and, you know, we've met people. And I think, you know, certainly with sort of Jules and myself, you know, we've gone out and done the hand-to-hand combat, and people have liked us. They've wanted to back us and support us. And I learned that, you know, if people sort of like you, they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, they'll do business with you. And I think that, and everything we said we'd do, you know, we did, and we did it well. And then it was a matter of like, right, you know, now it's box ticking. We're going to go and start getting all these petrol stations. And all of a sudden then we had, you know, convenience stores and all this white space ahead of us. And then like now, you know, we've got Cadbury to help us. So, yeah, there's still a lot of work to do, but yeah, you're right. You know, #1 selling chocolate bar in the UK. Who'd have thought that?
No.
And I became quite obsessed with that, because the first time we looked, I think we were 15th, which is still bloody good, but who wants to be 15th?
No. Got to be #1.
That conversation just proves something. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So here's my challenge. Upgrade your network. The Festival of Entrepreneurs is happening October the 8th and 9th, and I'm giving my listeners free 2-day passes to get in the room with 5,000 to 10,000 entrepreneurs who are actually building something. This is where the risk takers, the game changers, and the people who've decided to screw it and just do it come for inspiration, education, and connection. Don't just listen to their success stories, go meet the people living them. Grab your free pass now, because the biggest risk isn't taking a chance, it's missing the opportunity entirely. So I hope you enjoyed that bite-sized episode with Al Barratt. Few things I want to flag up here. One is conviction and chaos. So Al's journey definitely wasn't a straight line, and that makes it even more relatable for me. Product-led growth. So when the product's as good as Grenades is, it makes the marketing a lot easier. And Grenade absolutely nailed the balance between the two. Build to exit. So look, I loved his transparency here around what it took to scale and ultimately sell without losing your head.